Hello there and welcome back to my channel. My name is Theo, I'm a Cambridge University alumnus, and in this video we'll talk about 3 techniques that you can use to succeed at your Cambridge interview. If you're watching this video because you've been invited to interview at Cambridge or Oxford, congratulations. I want to reassure you that you can really do it. You just need a little more preparation, and I'm sure that this video and the tips I'll share with you will help you do that. If not, I'm sure there are some valuable tips in here for you as well, because these tips apply to any interview whatsoever. It's not necessarily limited to Cambridge or Oxford, but it's most suited and tailored for that. Last year I also made these 2 videos about my Cambridge interview experience, but this year I want to give you some bite-sized advice and techniques that you can use to improve your performance in the interview. Now, if you're interested in more tips about Cambridge as well as extra productivity and study tips, then subscribe to my channel and let's dive right into this video. Now, first things first, you need to start early and prepare thoroughly. Now, by starting early, I mean after you've submitted your UCAS application, in 1 week you'll get your supplementary answer questionnaire, the SAQ from Cambridge, where you submit extra information, and you need to think about that as well a little bit. And then in about 1 or 2 more weeks, you'll receive your invitation to interview. That will probably happen somewhere at the end of October or the beginning of November, and from then on you'll have about 1 month or 1 month and a half to prepare for your interviews. Now, to be honest, after submitting your application and your personal statement that you'd worked on for so long, you should be confident enough that you'll be invited to interview to actually start preparing for the interview before being invited. Now, of course, you can take a few days off or a week even, but then make a clear schedule for yourself to be preparing for that interview. Now, if you think about it, the worst that can happen is that you'll read around your topic for 2 more weeks and then get the email that you haven't been invited to interview, unfortunately. Now, that's not going to hurt you at all. It can actually only enrich you and make you more knowledgeable about your topic, which will help you at your future university. So consider starting preparing for your interviews before being invited, because any extra time you can get is valuable. This is important because interviewers will look at your personal statement and ask you stuff that you seem to be into and ask you to expand on that and tell them some more about it so that they understand the full extent of your interest and passion for the subject. For vocational subjects such as medicine or architecture, make sure to also prepare a little bit to talk about your extracurricular activities, because those are really important and you'll be certainly asked about those. So make sure to be prepared to say a bit more about what they brought you and how they will help you study those subjects. But generally, the interviewers will tailor the questions to you based on your personal statement, so make sure you know everything you mentioned there really well and in depth. If you mention some academic debates or something that you're really into, then make sure you know a lot about it and are prepared to talk about it, but also go beyond your personal statement. You might get some questions that are a bit off the beaten track of what you mentioned there. Now, in terms of going beyond what you mentioned in your personal statement, make sure you read some more books in the meantime, but you can also use other kinds of media to get more information in less time, such as YouTube, for example. When I was preparing for my German interview for modern and medieval languages, I also used YouTube to learn a lot about the German philosophy, and that actually became my foundation in continental style speculative philosophy, which I went on to study much more in depth at Cambridge. This was just an example. You're not expected to know everything about your subject. As I said, focus on what you mentioned in the personal statement and build on that, but also try to cover as much as possible from your intended field so that you don't get caught off guard by a weird question. Now, by listening carefully, I mean that you should pay attention to and interpret correctly what the interviewers are getting at, because they will never use language without intention. They will always be intentional about the wording of their questions. So you can get a lot of hints about which direction they want to take the conversation in. I'm not saying that you should say exactly what they want to hear, but they might be hinting at certain debates in the field or certain popular questions that have been answered in multiple different ways in the history of the field. And you have to pick up on that kind of stuff and expand on that and show that you've read extensively on the topic. Now, when it comes to thinking out loud, I mean firstly that there's no problem whatsoever with saying that you're nervous or that you need a couple of seconds to gather your thoughts or that you had a blackout and you need to recover your thoughts. They will be totally understanding of that, and you'll certainly not lose the interview and your offer just because you take a few moments to think about what you wanted to say and calm down. So be confident in there and be confident that they also understand that you're a human being, and they will be understanding of these deeply human emotions that you might have at an interview. But then again, also don't spend too much time thinking, try to speak as much as possible. And the second thing I mean by thinking out loud is that you need to walk them through your thought process. Now that's really important because they want to make sure that you can think and that you are a good fit for the kind of teaching that is done at Cambridge or Oxford. Now if you're faced with a difficult question that you can't answer right away, then it's probably the case that the question is not meant to have a simple unequivocal answer. And if you think about it, it makes sense that they will ask questions that will spark a conversation about the topic and give you the chance to show your knowledge about the topic and how you use that knowledge. Even if you don't have all the knowledge in the world about the topic, you'll have the chance to prove how you can use the knowledge that you do have to reach a satisfying answer to the question. So what you can do in practice in such a situation is to basically think out loud, to state out loud what the difficulties are when answering the questions, but also what information you can and are planning to use to solve the puzzle. And if you lay out very clearly what you know, how you're planning to use that, but also what your gaps are, then the interviewers might ask you some complementary questions that will help you most probably reach a satisfying answer to the question. And in this process, they will find out whether they can work with you, whether you are a mind that they can mold during your time at Cambridge. And that's really important for them. If you're responsive to their teaching, a lot of the times this is exactly how supervisions work, and in some sense that 20-minute to 40-minute interview is and looks a lot like a supervision that you will have throughout all your years at Cambridge. For the third tip, treat the interview as a conversation with people who are just as interested in the topic as you are. When they're interviewing, they're looking for people who are really excited about the topic, but also who are very open to criticism and to finding out more about the topic. There's this openness to new knowledge that makes you a great student at Cambridge and Oxford. And they want to make sure that their teaching will be very effective on you and that you're a great canvas for their kind of teaching. And in order to prove that, make sure that you're confident and yourself and show them how excited you really are about the topic, because you wouldn't be applying for this topic unless you were excited about it. And also talk to them as if you were talking to your best friends about your shared interests. This tip is a lot about the attitude that you're going into the interview with, and on this note, I want to congratulate you once again on getting up to this point. It means that your application and your personal statement were really convincing. You managed to write something very compelling that proved your interest as well as your analytical skills. And I want you to promise yourself that you will be giving your best in your preparation leading up to the interview and in the interview itself. Because you can really do it, you can get that offer, but you just need to prove who you are and how much you love this subject and how much you actually know about this subject. So start your preparation early and prepare thoroughly, concentrating on what you mentioned in your personal statement. Also, listen carefully for what they want to get at, and also think out loud when you've got difficulties, as well as when there's stuff that you know and that you can link together. They want to know your thought process, and be confident and be open to having a conversation with people who will most probably be your supervisors for the years to come. I'm sure you can do it. Now go out there and show them that you can as well. Until next time, like this video if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.